Hi folks, it's the General here with another episode of the 59th Minute FPL podcast. I think this is episode 10 now. I'm recording on Tuesday the 14th of August. So game week 1 is behind us now and we're looking ahead to game week 2. Just going to quickly explain how this episode is going to run. So first of all, what I'm going to do every week from now on at the start of the podcast, I'm going to shout out those players who managed to play 59 minutes at the weekend, getting themselves one FPL point. Then I'm going to briefly review game week 1, how it went for me. I'm going to go into a few talking points, talk about a few players in particular, give some of my thoughts about game week 1, and also mention a few players that I've added to my watch list. I'll then move into a couple of questions from Twitter and Slack. So I think I've got about 5 good questions to go through. Once they're done, I'll look ahead to game week 2. So I'll talk a little bit about captaincy and transfers. And I'll finish off the podcast today talking a little bit about Patreon and Slack. I mentioned them in the previous 2 podcasts, but I get a lot of questions about them. You know, what is Patreon, what is Slack? So I feel I need to just explain a bit more about what that is, but I'll do that at the end. So first of all, shout out to Riyad Mahrez and Pascal Gross, who both played 59 minutes at the weekend, getting themselves 1 point each. Always very frustrating for us FPL managers if we own players who are taken off after 59 minutes, missing out on that extra point. Could be the difference in winning and losing your mini league at the end of the season. So shout out to those 2 guys. I want to mention Cedric as well. Now, it wasn't the 59th minute, it was the 55th minute Cedric went off, but in doing so he missed out on the clean sheet, so I think he deserves a mention there as well this week. So that's the 3 shout outs this week. So as I said, I'll do that every week, just to give them the shout out that they deserve for the frustration that they cause. I'm sure plenty of managers, especially Mahrez, because Mahrez actually impressed me at the weekend. He played really, really well, and I'm sure it was frustrating for managers to see him getting taken off, because he could well have went on to maybe score or assist in that game. And obviously I know quite a few people went with Cedric as well for game week 1, so that was a painful one, with Southampton keeping the clean sheet. So moving into game week 1 for me, I got 70 points. Now, usually game week 1, 70 points, I'd be delighted, but there was some monster scores this week. Quite a few people broke 100, which is an amazing way to start the season. 70 points has me at around 650k overall, which is not terrible, but I can't help but feel what could have been this weekend, because a couple of players I was 50-50 on, and were in some of my drafts, you know, it ended up not going for, and it could have been a 100-point week for me, but I don't really dwell on things like that too much, because there's no point. The game week's done now and I'm already looking ahead to game week 2. Just 1 or 2 things to mention. Richarlison did the business, Salah did the business, Ederson in goal as well, glad I went with him. Van Aanholt, glad I went with him from game week 1 as well. Van Aanholt was very impressive. He clean sheet, assist, and he also stuck one in the top corner as well, which was ruled out for offside. So there's absolutely no chance he's leaving my team at any point soon. He's the best attacking defender in the league, in my opinion. So if you've got him, don't be selling him. I was disappointed not to get anything from my 2 Spurs guys, Ben Davies and Eriksen, but both passed the eye test for me, and I'm hopeful of getting something from both of them against Fulham this weekend in game week 2. My strikers let me down big time. Aguero, King and Arnautovic, 6 points between them, so pressure's on those 3 to deliver for me game week 2. I'm not going to knee-jerk any of them out of my team. I mean, I don't build my game week 1 team just for the first week. I want to give the guys time to bring in the points. So I'm hopeful those 3 can do the business this weekend. In midfield, I had Jota as well, 5 points. Now he was probably lucky enough to get the assist for winning the free kick. He was pretty quiet. I watched the Wolves Everton game and Jota was pretty quiet. Neves obviously got a goal and assist, so he's getting all the plaudits. But I'm going to give Jota more time as well. It could easily be him that's in the points in game week 2. I think it's Leicester Wolves have in game week 2. So Jota's I'm not going to knee-jerk him out either. Again, he was quiet, but I'm willing to give him more time. Obviously, going on his stats and everything last season, he's better than what he showed in game week 1. It might just take him a while to settle into the Premier League, but hopefully game week 2 he can do more than he did in game week 1. Apart from that, Wan-Bissaka was my first sub, 12 points. Not annoyed by that whatsoever because I bought him to be a sub. I was never going to start him. I'm just glad I got him in because I think he's risen in price now already to 4.1. So it's good to have those bench players that can come in if you need them. I know some people locked in with Wan-Bissaka coming off their bench this week. Fair play. I wouldn't say it's luck because you had him there because you knew he was a good pick. So if you got the 12 points from him, well done. That's all I'm going to say about my game week 1 squad. As I said, 70 points. So hopefully game week 2 will go a little bit better for me, and I can start rising those rankings without wasting any time. I'm going to move on to a couple of talking points from game week 1. A couple of players in particular that a lot of people are talking about after game week 1. The first one is Luke Shaw. Now he got his goal, his first goal for United. I talked a lot of people out of Luke Shaw before the season started because one of my beliefs is not getting in players that I know I'll probably have to sell a couple of weeks down the line. So well done to those of you who ignored me and got him in and got his points. But his goal aside, in that game, I felt Shaw didn't play very well defensively. I thought he looked pretty vulnerable on a couple of occasions. There was one in particular where Vardy took the ball off him when he should have cleared his lines, and Demarai Gray actually almost scored from that. And for Leicester's goal as well, he was pretty slow closing down the cross. So I don't think Mourinho's going to be happy with his performance defensively. And I still expect Shaw to lose his place in a couple of weeks' time. Now he probably will be okay for a couple of weeks because Valencia is injured. So Ashley Young will probably slot in at right back, which will allow Shaw to continue playing for a few weeks. But I think once Valencia comes back, we'll see Valencia right back and Young back at left back. It's up to Shaw really, I suppose, now in the next couple of weeks to improve defensively and keep doing what he's doing going forward to nail down that spot. But at this point in time, I still don't see him making it his own. So just be wary with Luke Shaw. If you have him, great, keep him. But if you don't have him, just be wary about bringing him in. The next player is Mendy, Man City, a player that was in my draft for most of the summer, and probably only a day or two before game week 1 I moved him out then for Van Aanholt. So it actually wasn't too bad of a move because Van Aanholt got 11. I think Mendy got 15, so obviously it would have been more painful if I had to replace Mendy with someone who only got 2 points. But I do regret probably not going with Mendy now from game week 1. I'll talk a little bit more about him later because he's in my thoughts for game week 2. He's an absolute beast. I mean, watching the Man City game, it was pretty painful watching Man City as a non-Mendy owner because he looked like he could score, assist every attack. He was basically playing as a centre midfielder at times. He was in all their attacks, and it was not an enjoyable watch not owning him. As I said, I'll talk about him a little bit later when it comes to game week 2 transfers. Another player that impressed me big time was Robertson at Liverpool. Now I went for Van Dijk, and it was mainly a gut feeling on Van Dijk all summer. He was just, I wouldn't say I was 50-50 on those two. I was always going to go for Van Dijk for game week 1. I just felt maybe that he underperformed last season and he's got plenty of goals in him. But having watched Liverpool in game week 1 and watched Robertson in particular, he was just superb. I mean, again, he was like Mendy. He's basically playing as a winger. I think Robertson only got 1 goal last season, but I think he can get more than that this season watching him in game week 1. So I'm already thinking about, how do I get Robertson in instead of Van Dijk? So again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Robertson is the one to own, I think, out of those two, based on game week 1. So again, that's a decision. I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but it's something maybe I want to address quickly. Rather than just sticking. I don't want to be stubborn and stick with Van Dijk when Robertson's the one I actually want now. Another player, Wan-Bissaka, I mentioned him already. He's a gift from the FPL gods at 4 million. Anyone who got him at 4 million, that it looks good now because he was superb. I think he was man of the match, got his assist, got his clean sheet. So 12 points I think he got, which is superb for a 4 million player. As I said, he's a gift. And if you don't have him and you don't have any other major issues in your team, I would probably consider getting him in this week. I think he's risen to 4.1 now, but he looks like he's nailed on, and he looks superb for Palace. He can get attacking returns, he can get clean sheets, so he's a no-brainer now, really. Moving on now to a couple of midfielders who people are talking about after game week 1. First one, Ruben Neves, Wolves. So I have Jota, who got 5 points. Neves got, I don't know what his points total was. He got a goal and an assist. So he got the free kick. He scored the free kick, which Jota was fouled for, and a very nice assist as well for the striker. Jimenez's goal, very good header, great ball in from Neves. So Neves is only 5 million. I think he's gone up to 5.1 now last night. And I get a lot of people asking me, would you do Jota to Neves to save the 1.5 million or 1.4 now? But I tend to avoid those sideways moves, especially after just one game week. More than likely there's other areas of your team that you could probably improve rather than doing that sideways move. But I did like Neves. I do like what I've seen of him in game week 1, but he's a wait and see for me. I want to see more from him. If he does it consistently over 3 or 4 weeks, then I may be inclined to move to him, maybe when wildcard time rolls around. But I wouldn't be getting him in just off the back of his game week 1 performance, because next week it could easily be Neves 2 points, Jota 10 points. So yeah, just wait and see with Neves, I think. Another 2 midfielders around the same price, Kante and Jorginho at Chelsea, both priced at 5 million. I went without any Chelsea players to begin with. I wanted just to see how they settle in under Sarri, and just kind of feel them out and see which ones I want to go for then. So Kante and Jorginho both scored. Jorginho took a penalty, a very good penalty as well, and Kante scored off his shin. I didn't watch the Chelsea game 90 minutes. I watched match of the day, and it was very clear to see that Kante was getting forward much more often than he usually does. He seemed to have a lot more freedom to break forward, with Jorginho kind of sitting back. So that does bode well for Kante. I laughed on Twitter when I seen that Kante had scored, because again, another player I talked so many people out of getting. For people say me rate my teams with Kante in them, and my reply to all of them was, Kante's a brilliant footballer, but he's a terrible FPL player. But having watched match of the day, this season could be different. If he keeps breaking forward like he was, he will pick up assists, and he may pick up another goal or 2 off his shin. So he's one for the watch list. Again, I wouldn't be getting him in just off the game week 1. But at 5 million, very, very cheap. Jorginho as well. Jorginho took the penalty, so it depends on whether he keeps penalties, which I think he actually could. We need to see what happens when Chelsea get a penalty when Hazard and Jorginho are on the pitch, whether Hazard takes it or Jorginho. But if it turns out that Jorginho is going to be the penalty taker at Chelsea, he'll be a no-brainer at 5 million. So again, like Neves, Kante and Jorginho, just on the watch list. Going to keep an eye on them for the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to rush into getting any of those. A couple of players I've added to my watch list as well. I think I've got 5 or 6 here. Ryan Fraser, 5.5 million Bournemouth. James Maddison, 6.5 million Leicester. Dele Alli impressed me. Joe Hart, 4.5 million. Mitrovic, 6.5, and Danny Ings, 5.5. Ryan Fraser scored game week 1. He's very cheap in a Bournemouth side who Bournemouth, they might not be great defensively, but they always score goals. So Fraser at 5.5 could be a really shrewd option this season. Match of the day as well, in his interview, he was saying, he felt like he should be getting more goals, and he wants to get 10 to 12 goals this season. So straight away when I heard that, he was straight onto my watch list. Maddison, very impressed with him against United. For a player making his Premier League debut, a young player, he looked like he'd been playing the Premier League for 5 or 6 years. It's going to take him no time to get up to speed. Very, very creative. He's got goals in him as well. De Gea made a very good save actually to deny him. So 6.5 million, I think Maddison could be very good value this season. But again, he's a wait and see. He was taken off early as well. That may be down to, I think he was carrying an injury, in the run up to the new season. So that's probably why he was taken off early. But definitely one to keep an eye on. Dele Alli impressed me. I've got Eriksen, but Ali was the one who stood out to me on Match of the Day. Often playing as the highest player up the pitch for Spurs, often ahead of Kane. Got himself into some very good goal scoring positions. Obviously he scored one, but he could have had a few more as well. There was a couple of occasions where teammates just didn't lay off the pass to him, and you know, he could have had even more. So I think Ali's going to have a big season based on game week 1. He's a player I've never really liked him in FPL, though I very rarely owned him. I don't know if I've ever owned him. I've always been an Eriksen over Ali guy, but watching game week 1, I think, you know, it could be more 50-50 this season between those two. Joe Hart, I've added him to my watch list. The only reason he's there is because he plays for Burnley, and Burnley goalkeepers are FPL gold. I was very lucky last season. I got in Nick Pope as soon as Heaton got injured. I got Nick Pope and he was superb. He played a big part in my success last season. So Hart started game week 1. It looks like he could be number 1 for a while at least. So Heaton was on the bench, so we're still not 100% sure, but it's one I'm going to monitor. If it becomes clear that Joe Hart is going to be number 1 for, you know, a couple of months until Pope gets back, he's definitely one I'll be looking at, because again, Burnley got a clean sheet in game week 1, so Burnley at 4.5 million, he could be even a set and forget goalkeeper who saves you a lot of cash. He's one of the very few teams outside maybe the top 5 or 6 where I would set and forget a goalkeeper, just because of the way Burnley play and set up. They're very, very good for clean sheets. 2 strikers then I've added to the watch list, Mitrovic and Danny Ings. Mitrovic didn't score game week 1, but he impressed me. He had a lot of chances. He looked pretty sharp. He's physical. You know, I think he had 6 or 7 goal attempts. I think Mitrovic can score 15 goals this season, so he's one for the watch list. Another one, Danny Ings, 5.5. He came off the bench for Southampton. He only played, I think he only probably played 10 or 15 minutes, but you could see right away in that short spell what he's going to bring to Southampton. He's a quality striker. He wasn't just taking chances; he was creating them as well. So it's probably going to take him a while to get up to speed, fitness wise, and things like that. But at 5.5 million, once he starts getting in the Southampton 11 regularly, he's definitely someone I'm going to be in for. He could well become the 3rd striker this season at 5.5 that we just get in and we don't need to worry about for the rest of the season. So definitely Ings is one to keep an eye on. So that's it for talking points and watch listed players this week. I'm going to move on now to some questions from Twitter and Slack. So I've got 5 written down here. The first one is from Samant on Twitter. He said, what to do with Gylfi Sigurdsson? So Siggy owners were pretty unlucky with the red card for Jagielka. Sigurdsson was the one who was sacrificed. I think it was Holgate who came on then to shore up the defence. Siggy, I think if you own him, I think you keep him for game week 2. Everton have Southampton at home in game week 2, so I would definitely keep Sigurdsson this weekend and then just reassess after that. There's no reason why Siggy can't, you know, deliver against Southampton this weekend, so I think it would be pretty silly to get rid of him just because he got substituted because of a red card. I don't think it was down to his performance or anything like that, so I would just hold Siggy if you own him. I know some people have Richarlison and Sigurdsson as well. Maybe you'd be more inclined to sell him then if you already have Richarlison, but I wouldn't do it this weekend against Southampton. I would keep both. Second question from the FPL King on Twitter. He's asking, should he do Ben Davies to Mendy? That's a tricky one. A couple of people have asked me that one about Ben Davies to Mendy, because Davies has Fulham at home this weekend, and as I said, Davies passed the eye test for me in game week 1, so I'm quite hopeful of Davies getting me something this weekend. So I don't think I would do the Davies to Mendy move. As attractive as Mendy is as an option, I think I would just hold off for a week on that one and just keep Davies for game week 2, especially if it saves you a transfer. Because Davies and Mendy, they could both get similar returns this weekend. I don't think there'll be a huge swing in Mendy's favour in game week 2. So again, I would probably just leave that one and save the transfer if you can. Next question is from Bilal on Twitter as well. He's asking what should he do with Alexis Sanchez. So Sanchez was another player who he didn't play very well. He did get an assist, probably a fortunate assist for the handball penalty. 5 points, but just I watched that game, watching Sanchez for 90 minutes. He was just his old self, giving the ball away very often, just looking agitated, not happy. Doesn't really seem to know what he's supposed to be doing in that system. And when it boils down to FPL, 10.5 million, I just don't think he's worth the money at the moment. When there's players like Mane, and the likes of Ali and Eriksen and things like that in the Man City midfielders as well, I just don't think Sanchez is worth 10.5. But if I owned him, I would probably give him one more week, because United play Brighton in game week 2. Brighton conceded 2 to Watford in game week 1. They were pretty poor defensively, so Sanchez could get something there. So I think it's probably worth holding on to him for one more week and then reassess. Next question is from Andreas from Slack. Which game week 1 overperformers will keep performing? So good question. So which players do I think will keep performing, who did well in game week 1? So I've listed down the ones who I think are worth looking at least, or getting in, who did well in game week 1. So Mendy number 1, Robertson at Liverpool, Van Aanholt at Palace. So that's the 3 defenders. And those 3 defenders, Mendy, Robertson, Van Aanholt, that's probably the ideal the ideal back 3 that I want to get to. Now, I've only got Van Aanholt. I only had Van Aanholt game week 1. So I'm looking to maybe move up to 2 of those in game week 2. So again, I'm coming to transfer soon. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing, or maybe what I have already done. So that's Mendy, Robertson, Van Aanholt. Midfielders then, who I think will keep performing: Mane, Richarlison. I do think Neves may keep ticking over this season as well, but I am just going to wait and see with him. Especially if he's on the set pieces. He may even be on penalties, but we need to wait and see with that. Ryan Fraser, I think, could have a big season. Dele Alli, I think, will have a big season as well. And Callum Wilson, as much as it pains me to say it, I mean, he trolled me last season big time. I got him in. I think he got 2 5 weeks in a row. So I'll never be in a rush to get him back in. But he did play well at the weekend. I know he missed a penalty, so hopefully Josh King gets them back from him now. But I think Wilson could have a big season as well. And as much as he's trolled me, and I hate him for that, he is on my watch list. So that's the overperformers who I think will keep performing. Last question from the Slack channel is from Hesmo. He's asking, is 5 at the back a viable strategy this season? Now, I'm getting this a lot because the defenders outperformed the strikers in game week 1. We had a lot of the wing backs doing very, very well, which makes us think, should we go 4 or 5 at the back? Now, I very rarely play more than 3 defenders. I've never really played 4 or 5 for any sustained period of time. It's usually just because of an injury or something like that. But I've started the season with 3, and I'm going to stick with 3 for the time being. I'll probably reassess maybe when wildcard comes around. Maybe I don't know when I'm going to play it yet. More than likely around week 4 or 5. And if it's a case then when the defenders are still doing the business, and there's more value in defence, I may look at maybe going 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. But Hesmo's question is 5 at the back a viable strategy. I don't think I'll ever play 5 at the back. I probably don't have anything to back that up. It's not the way I want to play the game. It's not a very fun way to play the game. I'm pretty boring when it comes to FPL and strategy and things like that, but playing 5 at the back would be just too much for me. Too boring. And too painful, sweating over 5 clean sheets on a Saturday at 4:30, for 20 minutes. No thanks. But again, I'm going to reassess everything in a couple of weeks' time. If the defenders do keep delivering, we do definitely need to look at, alternative formations, maybe 4 at the back. I probably won't play 5, but I mean, if it's something you think can, over the course of the season that can get you a good rank, then definitely consider it. It's just not for me. That's the questions covered. I'm going to quickly look ahead to game week 2 now, just in terms of captaincy and transfers. So I had a quick look on Fantasy Football Scout before I started recording at the captaincy poll for game week 2. So as it stands, Aguero's on 44%, Salah's on 29%, Now that surprised me a little bit. I went on the site expecting to see Salah number 1 in the captaincy poll, but it's actually Aguero at 44. Salah's 29%, and then the legend that is Benjamin Mendy is third with 5.8%. So I don't know if I've ever seen a defender in the top 3 on the captaincy poll. So that just shows you how impressive Mendy was game week 1 and what people think about him for game week 2 against Huddersfield. I've never captained a defender ever in over 10 years playing, and I have no intention of doing so anytime soon. Captaining defenders or goalkeepers, it's just all it takes is a corner, a fluky corner to wipe out the clean sheet. So it's just not for me. So Aguero's on 44%, Salah's on 29%. I've got both of those. The captaincy armband for me is currently on Salah. Salah's a safe pick. Played very well game week 1. He's guaranteed to play game week 2. But then the thing with Aguero is it's Huddersfield at home and it's Sergio Aguero, so it is very tempting. I'm not 100% on Salah yet. I am going to mull over Aguero for the rest of the week for the captaincy. The issue is Aguero didn't do much game week 1, to justify the captaincy for game week 2. It's Pep Guardiola. We know we can. I said it in the Slack channel this week. If I was ever to get a tattoo, it would be just 3 words: never trust Pep. Because we just don't know what he's going to do. Aguero, any given week, Aguero could find himself on the bench, and that's probably just going to be enough for me just not to captain him, because there'd be nothing more painful than captaining him and then he comes on for 10 minutes and gets 1 point. So I do think Aguero will start against Huddersfield, but I think the safe play is going to be Salah. I don't think there's any reason to take chances at this point in the season. So as I said, I'm not 100% in Salah, but I'd say I'm probably about 75%. But again, I'll mull it over for the next couple of days. Moving on to game week 2 transfers for me in particular. Now, you might have picked up on it, during the podcast that I've done something that I don't usually do. I've made an early transfer. Now, I'm a big preacher of waiting until Friday and having patience and everything. And first game week of the season, I've gone against my beliefs and made an early transfer. I've made a Monday transfer, which it's probably been a couple of years since I've made a Monday transfer. So what I've done is I've sold Van Dijk and I've got Mendy. So I did it last night, Monday night. I did it before Mendy increased in price. Mendy's now my third Man City player, so I've got Ederson, Mendy and Aguero. So getting Mendy in now blocks me from getting a Man City midfielder. But the way I looked at it was, first of all, I think Mendy's a must-have watching him in game week 1. He's an absolute beast getting forward. Basically plays as a winger. It looks like he can score goals as well as create them. It's Huddersfield in game week 2 at home, so you're almost guaranteed a clean sheet, plus hopefully some attacking returns. And again, I always preach, waiting until Friday, having patience on your transfers. But I just felt this week it was pretty low risk. There's no midweek games or things like that, and there is certain exceptions to the rules in my book. I think when there's a player that you think is essential, I just don't think you should waste any time. Just go for them. I didn't want to wait another week to get Mendy, especially when it's Huddersfield at home this weekend. You're almost guaranteeing yourself 6 points right away. The thing with Van Dijk, having watched game week 1, I probably should have went Robertson game week 1. Again, that was my gut feeling. I don't regret it because it was a gut feeling, and I'll always go with my gut feelings. But having watched game week 1, I've changed my mind now. Robertson's the one I'm going to want from Liverpool. So I had a decision to make to get Mendy, and I could have got rid of Ben Davis, but as I've mentioned, I want him for game week 2. And I may want to keep Davis longer as well. It looks like Danny Rose might even leave before the end of August, which will make Davis even more appealing. So the way I looked at the Van Dijk Mendy situation for game week 2, Van Dijk is away to Palace. I can see Palace scoring against Liverpool, and Mendy, as I said, I've got Huddersfield at home, so almost guaranteed a clean sheet there. And even looking a bit further ahead, if you compare Van Dijk and Mendy over the next 6 weeks, where City have amazing fixtures, I would expect Mendy to come out on top there between those two over the next 6 weeks. So that's why I've made the move early. Again, as I said, Mendy's now my third City player, so I can't get in any City midfielders. But the way I look at it is, watching game week 1, Mendy basically is a midfielder anyway from City, but he's nailed on and he gets clean sheets. So that's why I went with him over the midfielders. And as I said, it's very, very rare that that a performance from a player will force me into an early transfer, and that's what Mendy has done. He impressed me so much that I've got him in right away on Monday. He's gone up to 6.1 already. I mean, if I decided not to get him in game week 2 and he bangs again, he could easily be 6.4, 6.5 very, very quickly. And I just wanted to get in at the 6 million, before his price does skyrocket, because I do expect it to. So my transfer is already made. I've got Mendy now. Van Dijk's gone. So Robertson's on my watch list, so I'll be looking to work Robertson into my side over the next couple of weeks. I don't know how soon, but he is a player I'm going to want going forward. So that's me. That's captaincy and transfers covered as well. As I said, I'm going to just finish this episode just talking a little bit about Patreon and Slack, because I'm getting a lot of questions from people who are not familiar with Patreon and Slack and what it is. And I mean, about 4 weeks ago I wasn't familiar with what Patreon and Slack were either, so I'm just kind of learning as I go as well. But basically what Patreon is, I've set it up. You can support me on Patreon now, and there's 3 options. There's a $2 option, a $4 option and a $6 option, and that's per month. So you can sign up and that would be a monthly pledge, and those pledges can be cancelled at any time, so you're not tied down to a long-term agreement. And even for the next 2 weeks, Patreon doesn't take pledges until the 1st of every month, so you can actually sign up for one of my Patreon tiers for the next 2 weeks, say, and try it out and see if you like it. And if you don't, you can just cancel it before the 1st of September and you won't be out of pocket at all. So it's basically like a free trial. So the three Patreon options are, the first one is the $2 tier, which I've called the Budget Defender tier. So what that gets you is entry into my Patreon mini league, where there'll be £100 for the winner. And it also gets you exclusive podcasts, live streams and articles throughout the season. So yesterday, for example, I posted, I wrote an article with my thoughts after game week 1, and then I posted it on Patreon. So it's only my Patreon subscribers who get to read that. So that's one example of what I'll be doing every week on Mondays. I'll be posting my thoughts about certain teams and players following the game week. So the lowest tier on Patreon will actually get you that much, and it'll also get you, I'm going to be recording podcasts as well just for Patreon subscribers, so I'll always do this one for everyone every week, but then I'll also be doing Patreon exclusive podcasts for just the patrons, not every week but probably every second week for those. And once I get YouTube up and running, which hopefully will be this week or next week, I'll be doing a YouTube every Friday night for everyone to watch, but I'll also then be doing private YouTubes for patrons as well, so just give you that little bit extra. So even if you're not interested in Slack channels or WhatsApp or things like that, if you just want to support what I'm doing and help me to continue living the dream, working full time on fantasy stuff, you can just pledge at the $2 level and just support me in what I'm doing. But it does get you into the mini league, and it will get you certain podcasts and articles and things like that. The next tier up then is the $4 one, which is the mid-price midfielder tier. Now it gets you everything that you get for the lowest tier, but it also gets you into the Slack channel. So a lot of people are asking me, what is Slack? So Slack basically is it's a private forum I've set up, so for patrons. So once people sign up at the $4 or $6 tier, they get invited to my Slack channel. So basically it's a place for FPL managers to talk about FPL on a daily basis, basically. So there's about 150 of us now on Slack already, which is amazing. I mean, I've been blown away by the support and patron, and I mean, we're only in the middle of August, so it's amazing. But so there's about 150 of us in the Slack channel now, and we're on there every day, and we're just talking to each other about certain we've got 7 or 8 different channels. We've got like a captaincy channel, transfer strategy, different things like bookies, odds, non-FPL chat. There's loads of different ones. We post our teams in there every week on a Friday night as well. So that's something I'm doing on Slack as well this season, where I won't be doing it as much on Twitter. I will be sharing my team before the deadline with my patrons on Slack. So I did that for game week 1. The deadline for game week 1 was 7 o'clock UK time, so at 6 o'clock UK time I posted my game week 1 team in there for patrons to be able to see it. So Slack, basically, it's a nice little community. Everyone's in there kind of with the aim of all of us doing well this season. There's no, negativity or anything in there. It's just a nice little community, talking about FPL on a daily basis. The top tier then is my premium striker tier, the $6 one. So again, it gets you everything like the others. It gets you the podcast, the articles, the live streams, gets you into the mini league, it gets you into Slack, but it also gets you one-to-one with me via WhatsApp. So basically, if you want to talk to me one-to-one about FPL this season through WhatsApp, that's the premium striker tier. So I won't pick your team for you. It's more kind of to share my wisdom with you over the last couple of seasons, and I guess it's almost, I don't like to say a teacher, but it's kind of guiding you in the right direction rather than making decisions for you, making you a smarter FPL player, basically. So one thing I'm always keen to avoid is people copying my team for player for player, because it does happen. I know people laugh when I say that, but there is people out there who write to me and say, send me your team, I want to copy it, I want to win my mini league. But it's something I want to avoid, because number one, there's no guarantee that I'm going to have a good season this season. Anybody can have a bad season. What I've said to all my patrons on Slack and things like that, they should be aiming to beat me rather than match me. So again, you can look at my team, fair enough, but I don't like people copying it player for player. So again, that's what the WhatsApp is. It's direct access to me. You can send me a message anytime, and we talk FPL on a weekly basis. So any more questions you have about Patreon or Slack, just send me a message on Twitter at FPL General. You can find the links to it on my Twitter account. As I said, any questions, just drop me a message or send me an email. You'll get that on my Twitter account as well. So that's it for episode 10 of the 59th minute. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode after game week 2. So I'm hoping for a green arrow, and hopefully most of you get green arrows game week 2 as well. Thanks for listening again, folks. Talk to you all soon.